and you will make mistakes forever. You will never be perfect. And until we can reach that place in our brains and our hearts and understand you will never overcome those things, it's how to get comfortable with those things. There's this piece we just read about respect and non-judgment. In general, we found that it's okay to feel and express those feelings. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to have respectful conflict. And it's okay to have needs and express them. And I remember when I first started reading those kinds of things, and I wasn't sure that it was okay to do any of those things. I definitely wasn't sure that it was okay to express my feelings. I was pretty certain it's not at all right to make mistakes, let alone admit that I'd made mistakes. I was deathly afraid of conflict. The idea that there was such a thing as respectful conflict didn't even really exist in my head. I did everything I could to avoid as much conflict as possible. And I definitely learned that I shouldn't have needs, and if I have them, that expressing them is a pretty bad idea. You know, when I get questions from people over and over, one of the things that happens most often, I would say, is I'm doing work and I'm not stopping drinking, or I haven't completely abstained, or I've reduced, but I'm not where I want to be. What's going on? Why is this happening? And the reason I think this set of phrases is so important is that those things are normally so antithetical to the way we behave in the world. And I think a lot of us believe that we can solve our problem without making those statements applicable to us. How many of us really wish that we didn't have needs, wish that we never needed anything from anybody else, so we were just fully self-sufficient, right? Like, how many of us wish deeply that we wake up in the morning, we'd know what to do about everything, do it perfectly, never need to ask anybody for help, never get hungry, never get thirsty, never get sad, never need to express to anybody else that we need something from them, so we're not harping on anybody. And so we isolate because we have needs. We've always had needs. They haven't gone away. For some of us as a child, they weren't addressed. They weren't taken care of. And so we never trusted that they would be by somebody who cares about us. Sometimes we were literally explicitly told, shut up. How dare you? I think we're okay oftentimes if we're trying to express joy. Although that, again, honestly, even as I'm saying that, if you grew up in an environment where that was not okay, that was not celebrated, that was not acknowledged, you could have even been taught that saying, oh my God, I'm so happy, or I was so good at this one thing that I did, I feel accomplished. That could have been seen as, don't show off or don't boast or whatever. If anybody's had that, that would affect how you feel about expressing those feelings, because from a very young age, that was not okay, let alone I don't feel like I belong. I feel less than. I feel depressed. I feel anxious, right? All those feelings, the negative feelings, again, relate back to having needs. But I would even argue that unless your parents, unless the environment you grew up in specifically acknowledged and allowed you to explore those feelings, most people just from their peers were taught early on in life, don't cry, don't act awkwardly, right? Just act like you have your shit together all the time. Oh, you think you're hungry or you don't get treated well? I'll give you something to cry about. Holy shit. So now you learn, when I express that I have needs or I don't feel great, I get punished. I know a lot of people deal with that around bullying too, by the way. You get bullied, you tell somebody about it, the bullying gets worse and nobody does something about it. And so now you feel as if I ask for help, I'm going to get in even bigger trouble. So I learned to not ask for help. Making mistakes again, right? We try to hide them. This is a thing that I think comes up a lot around relapse and slip-ups. Even if you don't look at it as a failure, it doesn't meet the goal of why you're here. Mistakes are heavily judged, right? You screw something up, don't admit it, don't tell anybody. Did you take all the cookies out of the cookie jar? No, I wasn't even in the kitchen. What are you talking about? If you did something that you weren't supposed to do, you get punishment. And so the lesson primarily is hide. Out of that, I think, comes the idea of respectful conflict. The whole, I'll give you something to cry about, big boys don't cry. Anytime that there's friction in the communication, friction in your behavior, friction in your relationship with your parents, with peers, we're asked to kind of gloss over it, right? We're asked to just get it out of your mind, keep moving forward. We don't deal with conflict. It's okay to have respectful conflict means I can respect somebody else while in conflict with them. I know this is very antithetical to the way most of our society lives right now, but just because I disagree with somebody doesn't mean I have to disrespect them. That's not the same thing. And vice versa, right? I can have an opinion different than the person sitting in front of me. And that doesn't mean I'm less than them. That doesn't mean I'm not equal to them. It doesn't mean that I don't have the same rights or privileges as they do. We just disagree. And we can disagree about big things, like in relationships. Do we want to have kids? Where do we want to live? Do I like your parents, right? We can disagree about big things. How many times have you disagreed about little stuff? And next thing you know, you're in the middle of like a brawl. You're screaming at each other. What the fuck is wrong with you? I can't believe we ever got together. You're insane. And the thing that we did is about like how you make the bed. Sometimes we get riled in this stuff because conflict feels so uncomfortable that we feel like, oh my God, I disagree with my loved one. I disagree with my mom. I disagree with my dad. There's something wrong. There's nothing wrong with conflict. There's nothing wrong with it. Trying to avoid it all the time is a much bigger problem. I don't know a simpler way to say this, but those things, those statements, being able to have feelings and express them, having needs and having them expressed and met, having respectful conflict. You know what? You will never reach a place in your life where you're happy with everybody all the time and you never have anything to talk to anybody about in terms of like corrective action. That's never going to happen. And you will make mistakes forever. You will never be perfect. And until we can reach that place in our brains and our hearts and understand, oh, my job is not to figure out how to overcome these limitations. That is humanity. That is being human. That is being a person. You will never overcome those things. It's how to get comfortable with those things. It's how to be okay with the fact that those things will keep happening. Until we figure this out, we're not going to be able to stop the other stuff. Stop thinking that this is about the alcohol. Stop thinking that this is about the cocaine or about the porn or whatever it is. Those are strategies to deal with this stuff. Once this stuff is dealt with, the problems go down.